Welcome. I'm Dr. Beth Frades, and this is the MGH Surgeons Lifestyle Medicine Paving the Path to Wellness program. We're in presentation number 2. We're going to talk about attitude. This is one of my favorite sections of our wellness program. I'm going to share some slides with you today, as I did last time, so that we can see some images together, review some data, and basically have some fun. So here we are with our Paving the Path to Wellness wheel, which you may recall from our initial workshop together and perhaps from last week, the different steps to optimal wellness. The attitude piece of this puzzle falls into the peaceful mind category. Last week, we reviewed physical activity, which was in the healthy body category. And you may feel like standing up at this point and maybe walking in place like I'm doing right now. Or if you got an exercise ball as your chair, since last time we were together, then you can be bouncing, as I'll be doing throughout this presentation from time to time. Oops, we got a little snafu there. Let's get back to our presentation. I have an attitude of flexibility. So a little snafu happens in your presentation and you just go with the flow and move on. Hoping that won't happen again, but let's see. So we're going to take a coach approach. When we're working on lifestyle changes, we need to take a coach approach with our clients, our patients, and with ourselves. We're trying to coach ourselves to reach our optimal state of wellness. We'll compare an expert approach to a coach approach. Then we'll look at the amygdala inside the brain and discuss amygdala hijacking. Some of you may be familiar with that term, and others may not know what I'm talking about. You will by the end of our presentation today. We'll talk also about the importance of a growth mindset. That's Carol Dweck's work at Stanford. After that, we'll address positivity, which is Barbara Fredrickson's work. Lastly, we will review an attitude of gratitude and how that changes our creativity, productivity, as well as our mood. Expert, that's what we all are, right? You're surgeons, you're all experts. And in fact, you're experts in surgery in specific parts of the body. And that's what medical school and our training does for us. It gives us a lot of knowledge, skills, and tools so that we can heal people, help people. You can save lives. We do this by examining the patient, perhaps taking x-rays, planning, executing, explaining ourselves, repeating ourselves to the patient time and time again so that they fully understand what we're going to do. And then we tell and sell our approach. It's a lot about sharing our knowledge, using our skills, and following our own agenda. Getting the job done, plain and simple. And we have to do that as physicians, as surgeons. There's many times you need to take the expert approach. However, with lifestyle change, this sell and tell approach, this finger wag approach, you need to exercise more, you need to eat less, you need to sleep more, you need, do, shame, blame, guilt, blah, blah. This doesn't work very well. It may work in a short term, get people moving for a little while, but it's not sustainable. And thus, using that same approach to yourself, if you want to start exercising, come on, you have to do it. You know you need to exercise. You have to lose weight. You know you're overweight. You know you're deconditioned. You know you've been sitting. And if you're sitting too long, you get into the sedentary physiology, which is not good for your heart. That's why sedentary behavior is a risk factor for heart disease. You know all this and you're experting yourself, you're telling yourself what to do, finger wagging at yourself. It doesn't really work. Instead, we need to take a coach approach. Put on that coach hat and use some compassion, some understanding, some appreciation for even tiny steps forward. Be curious about how the process is going, not judgmental, but curious, and be honest. about where you are right now and where you want to go. So this I've created in a mnemonic for. So the first thing we need to do is take curiosity with us on this journey to optimal health and wellness. We need to be open. That's really non-judgmental with ourselves. We need to appreciate any positive things that are going on in our lives in terms of our lifestyle, in terms of our work, in terms of our relationships at home and in the hospital, and appreciation for the good things, because what we appreciate appreciates. Some compassion. We are full of compassion for our patients. Majority of the time, we want to be. And when we're not burned out, we're able to be. What I'm going to propose to you today is to think about self-compassion. Kristen Neff's work, California. Psychologist that really put self-compassion on the map. The idea that we have to speak to ourselves the same way we would speak to a friend or a patient. Sometimes we say things to ourselves we wouldn't even say to another person, let alone a friend. We need to think about our self-talk. You may have heard about automatic negative thoughts called ants. Well, these ants, this negativity, it does not help with productivity or creativity. In fact, the opposite is what we're going for, positivity. So we need to think about treating our own selves with compassion and speaking to ourselves in a way that is empowering. So that negative self-talk needs to be called out, addressed, and forgotten. We need to rethink how we talk to ourselves. And then we need honesty, which we bring to our daily lives, to our workplace, to our patients. We need to bring it to ourselves. We need to be honest with ourselves. You might say, oh, it's not a big deal. I don't really need to sleep. I'm fine with no sleep, despite the data. I'm different. And maybe you are, but chances are you need 7 to 8 hours. And if you don't get it, the mood changes, the negative self-talk takes over, and a lot of things can go wrong, not just sleep deficient, falling asleep at the wheel, drowsy while driving, DWD, which happens to many people. And we'll talk about that in our sleep module. But we need to be honest and say, well, maybe I am human, normal, and I do need sleep to fully function and be productive and creative and compassionate with others and myself. That's the coaching cap that we want to wear. Now, attitude. We can choose to see the good, or we can focus on the bad. Wallow in our own misery or disappointment. Throw a temper tantrum. When I give this in person, I often say, how many people think temper tantrums are just for toddlers? And no one raises their hands. Then I say, does anyone have teenagers? Have you seen a teenager throw a temper tantrum? Yes. Hands go up. Then I say, has anyone seen an adult have a temper tantrum? What do you think? Do I see hands go up or no? Yes, hands go up because adults do have temper tantrums. Then I even ask in an audience of physicians, who has had a temper tantrum in the past month or two? And guess what? People do raise their hand. So these are not just for toddlers. Temper tantrums happen. We need to try to avoid them. It's a powerful quote from William James I want to share with you. The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes of mind. And that's what we're going to try and do today. First thing I want to talk about is amygdala hijacking. Dan Goleman, Emotional Intelligence, you may be familiar with his book and his excellent work in this area. He coined the term amygdala hijacking. So I know we don't have any neurosurgeons in our group because they're their own group at MGH. That's fine, but I'm going to take you into the brain. And specifically, let's look at the amygdala. There it is, in the limbic system, deep inside the brain. As you may recall, the amygdala handles any threat. Sets off the fight or flight response, sympathetic nervous system. It will respond to any threat, and it will self-protect in every way, irrationally. Why? Basically, when the amygdala takes over the brain, no longer do we have input from the frontal lobe, specifically the prefrontal lobe, the CEO of the brain, planning, organizing, controlling reactions. It's gone. We just have the amygdala, fight or flight. You may have experienced an amygdala hijacking yourself, or you may have been on the receiving end of an amygdala hijacking. This could be verbally, or this could even be an email. When you say something or write something, and it provokes a response that is out of proportion to what you have said or written, and you feel very uncomfortable receiving this blast of verbal accusations or anger, or maybe written accusations and anger. Many people have received an amygdala hijack email or even text. This is detrimental to all. There's no one that benefits from the amygdala hijacking, the person experiencing it or those receiving it. So we really want to address these amygdala hijackings and try to stop them. One way to stop them is to call in that prefrontal cortex into the situation. How do you do that? Well, you've got to do something rational. So if you feel yourself getting angry, your blood is boiling, someone says something to you, and you feel that it is making you extremely angry, and you almost get the sense that it's irrational yourself. You're saying, I'm really angry about that comment. So the first things you can do, because you have your coaching hat on, is you're curious. So you say, what makes you say that? You simply ask a question back. What makes you say that? And they may respond in a perfectly compassionate, sensitive way, which will dampen the amygdala because you'll realize there is no threat, in fact, and you can continue moving forward in a normal cognitive pattern rather than just having your amygdala speak for your entire brain. That could happen if you say, what makes you say that? If you say what makes you say that and the response is one that provokes more anger, then taking a time out, either walking away from the situation saying that you need to go to the bathroom or you aren't able to have the conversation right now because you need to go. You can take a time out. You can take some deep breaths. 5 deep breaths can often help dampen the amygdala. If that doesn't work for you, then call in the prefrontal cortex by counting. You could count from 1 to 10, but that's often mindless, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's not really going to make your frontal lobe engage. So instead, counting backwards works, especially counting backwards, say from 100, but I prefer counting backwards from a random number, like pick 597, because you actually have to think about it. So 597, 596, 595, 594, 593, and that actually brings in the neurons in the prefrontal cortex, and it can help to dampen the amygdala. So you don't launch into this hijack. As I say, nothing good comes from the amygdala hijacking. If you have a friend who is experiencing an amygdala hijacking, one thing you can do is try to get it early on, because that's the best way to stop it, and say to your friend, we'll just say Joe, hey Joe, I think that maybe this is an overreaction. We should probably think about how we can get rational here and try to work with your friend. Maybe even ask them to take deep breaths, or maybe do counting with you, depends on your relationship and who the person is. But we want to try to bring our best foot forward in the OR, in the hospital, at home. So we focus on positivity, optimism, gratitude, mindfulness, our strengths, and how to cultivate a growth mindset so we can learn from any mistakes. If we do these things, we can avoid the amygdala hijacking. So let's launch into the growth mindset. This is Carol Dweck, and she has fantastic work and a great book, Mindsets, that I will share at the end of our presentation with the title of the book, so you could write it down and perhaps buy it if you like. We need to be able to experience mishaps, mistakes, failures as opportunities to learn and grow. Oh, I already had a little mishap today, right? Something happened on my screen. I have no idea what, but that's okay. We'll move on. We'll learn and grow. I'll figure out what happened. Hopefully it won't happen again. And we won't judge because we have our coaching hat on. We'll just say, these things happen. Let's move on. Turns out if you do that, you'll actually be more productive, more creative, and you'll be less likely to make mistakes moving forward. Here is her book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. And she has theories of intelligence. We did emotional intelligence with Dan Goleman, just reviewed his amygdala hijacking. Now we're going to do a growth mindset with a 6-point Likert scale Carol Dweck has created. Basically, if you have a growth mindset, you have a certain amount of intelligence and you cannot really do much to change it. You wouldn't believe that if you had a growth mindset. That's a statement of a fixed mindset, which is the opposite of a growth mindset. On this Likert scale, you're asked to judge statements like that as to how much you believe that statement. That statement is definitely true, not really true. And you see how your scores fit with a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. As I say, you only have a certain amount of intelligence and you can't do much to change it. That's a fixed mindset. Growth mindset would say you can always learn and grow, do the best you can with what you have, develop skills, tools, utilize support systems so you can reach higher ground. If you want to take the growth mindset test, here it is online, mindsetonline.com, and you can test your mindset. Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? You might even want to do this with your spouse or a colleague and see where you guys fall. And the book is fantastic if you're able to get it. Here's a study that looked at the growth mindset. It was published a few years ago in Psychological Science. Evidence for a neural mechanism linking growth mindset to adaptive post-error adjustments, meaning after you make a mistake, how do you behave? So we talked about this a little bit. Is intelligence malleable or fixed? If you believe it's malleable, you have a growth mindset. If you believe it's fixed, you have a fixed mindset. With malleable, with a growth mindset, if I make a mistake, I try to learn and figure it out. Fixed. This mindset, people can't get smarter and they do not work to learn from mistakes because it's fixed. They believe that what they do, how they perform, is already determined, fixed. There's nothing they can do about it. So in this study, there were 25 students. They were given a test. It's a little mouse clicking test. They had to correctly identify the center letter of a 5-letter string of letters. It's actually not easy to do. Here are all M's, here are N's, and then M's in the middle. So they would have to state M in the middle of this. It's pretty easy to make a mistake, especially when these things are popping up rapidly. In the study, they checked the students' belief systems about their mistakes. They had electrical activity measured during the entire process, so you could see the evoked potentials. With a mistake, there are actually 2 signals within a quarter of a second that are generated by the brain and recorded as electrical activity. The first one is the, oh no, I made a mistake, or as they said, oh crap, I made a mistake. The second electrical signal that's recorded indicates that the person's aware of the mistake and is trying to fix it. So, oh, I made a mistake. What happened? How can I adjust? How can I make it better? That's that second response. So in this study, they looked at the differences between the potentials, between the oh crap, how strong, powerful that evoked potential was, versus the oh, I made a mistake, what can I do to fix it response, the second response. They found that those that had a higher evoked potential, a more powerful second response, were those that actually had a growth mindset when they were tested. And why is this important? Because in that study, they found that those that had the growth mindset were less likely to make mistakes in the second round of testing. So they learned from their mistakes, so that the growth mindset enabled them to perform better. It kept them more productive, more positive, and they were able to perform better the next time they took the test. So for us, it's really important, if we make a mistake, we don't want to repeat that. So if we have a growth mindset, we're more likely to be powerful and productive the next time we meet the same challenge. And positivity keeps us creative. We know this. Barbara Fredrickson has long time studied the power of positivity. She actually has a free course, like you guys have time, but she has a free course on positive psychology in Coursera. It's actually a pretty good course, but you need time. She has a positivity ratio. You may have heard about it. Basically 3 to 1. You need 3 positive emotions for every negative one that you feel. We used to use this at Harvard Medical School when it first came out in terms of managing the students. I was a tutorial leader for a number of years in anatomy and musculoskeletal system, central nervous system, and endocrinology courses, their core courses at HMS years ago in the 2000s, early 2000s. We were told that we give feedback to the students, of course. It's important that they learn and grow. And we should mention 2 positive things that they're doing, then 1 thing they can work on, and close with a positive statement. So a 3 to 1 ratio about. And this will help them to accept the information, hopefully, and still feel powerful and empowered and confident to make the adjustments to improve. Her whole model is the broaden and build model, and it's all about creativity. And as surgeons, I know that we need creativity, right? You need it in the OR, you need it in your life, you need it when you're planning surgeries, you need it directly in the surgery, you need it when you see patients. We need it as health coaches, as physicians, as primary care docs. We need creativity in our lives. You need it as a parent, by the way. You need it as a spouse. Creativity goes a long way because problems come up and creativity helps with problem solving. So positivity. What are the 10 forms of positivity? Joy, serenity, hope, amusement, awe, gratitude, interest, a sense of pride, inspiration, and love. So these are all forms of positivity. And when we feel these positive emotions, we're more likely to be motivated and to feel empowered to continue on in a productive and creative way. It's all about a spiral upward. That's what Barbara Fredrickson's work is about. So if you look, we have joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation, passion, enthusiasm, expectation, belief, optimism, hopefulness, and commitment. And these things build us up and make us more productive, creative, and powerful. But when you add in boredom, pessimism, frustration, irritation, impatience, overwhelm, disappointment, doubt, worry, blame, discouragement, anger, amygdala hijack, revenge, hatred, rage, jealousy, insecurity, guilt, unworthiness, fear, grief, depression, powerlessness, and victim feelings, we spiral down. Negative emotions drag us down and make it impossible to be our best selves. We want to try as best we can to focus in and to experience positive emotions and actually to share positive emotions with others, especially when the OR and we're among a team of people. We would like to bring out everyone's creativity, best problem-solving abilities, everyone around the OR table, right? Not just us, but everyone. So we will need to use positive emotions to get us to our highest ground in the OR, out of the OR. It's interesting data that Barbara Fredrickson shares in many of her different articles. This one in particular I found fascinating. The question is, people were shown this photo and they were asked, is this a photo of a man or a woman, a male or a female? And ignore the background. Look at the face. Tell me if this is a male or female. When people were feeling positive emotions, indicated that they had many positive emotions, those people couldn't help but pick up on the background of the house, to notice the windows, the roof structure. But those that were feeling negative, more negative emotions, they actually could just focus in on the face and just see the face and do the task at hand, just focus in on the face, and didn't notice anything outside the box, outside the frame of that photo. And we do need to be aware of things outside the box, right? Especially when you're doing surgery and you are in a little space, you want to focus in on that, but you need to be aware of, cognizant of the surrounding structures as well, with a focus on the face, being able to focus in on what you're working on, but have an idea of what's around that space. So really, Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build work is what she focuses in on most. People experiencing positive emotions have a wider awareness and can see the big picture. Positive emotions help us to see more possibilities. People experiencing positive emotions are more likely to be resilient. So if something does go wrong, we can stick with it and get out of the problem and make the most of it. And she's seen that kids do better academically if before a math test, they think of a pleasant or positive memory. This we can use before going into the OR. Think of a pleasant or positive memory. Go in there with a feeling of positivity. Positive emotions make us more socially connected. Of course, we need to be connected with everyone in our team, inside the OR, outside the OR. People are more trusting and come to better win-win solutions when there's positive emotions in the room that everyone is experiencing. So our whole model is this broaden and build here. You see, positive emotions will broaden and build, will have novel thoughts, good relationships, trusting relationships, building enduring personal resources, social support, resilience, skills, knowledge, and then we'd have enhanced health, survival, fulfillment, enhanced results. That brings us then back into the positive emotions. So we can keep broadening and building. Now let's get into gratitude, the attitude of gratitude. So this is a photo of Robert Emmons, who has done a lot of research on gratitude. And he also has a book, Thanks, How the New Science of Gratitude Can Make You Happier. And cultivating this attitude of gratitude can really help with, again, creativity, mood, sustaining our lifestyle changes. Let's take a look at some of his work. First, what is this gratitude scale? I have so much in life to be thankful for. So you'd rate this. Strongly disagree is 1, strongly agree is 7. If I had to list everything that I felt grateful for, it would be a very long list. When I look at the world, I don't see much to be grateful for. I'm grateful to a wide variety of people. As I get older, I find myself more able to appreciate the people, events, and situations that have been part of my life history. Long amounts of time can go by before I feel grateful to something or someone. That's the scale. You can take that and see how it's scored. In his research, he uses that scale, and he finds that those that score high in gratitude, in general, high levels of gratitude improve subjective emotional well-being. I have to tell you that I've seen this for myself with a gratitude journal, and many, many patients and clients that have been feeling low Not low enough to fall into the category of depression, but low enough to report that they're not themselves. They keep a gratitude journal, which involves writing 3 things down for which you're grateful each night in a little journal by your bedside. Do that for a month as best you can. If you don't do it one day, don't judge yourself. You move on. And if you can only think of 1 each night, that's fine. But you do 1 to 3 and see how you feel at the end of a month. It often helps with sleep as well. I have one client in particular who wanted to see me, but I was going off on vacation. So I suggested another colleague, and she said no. And I said, okay, well, in the interim, why don't you start using a gratitude journal? And she did. And when I got back, which was after 2 weeks, she said she was feeling like she could wait, and she wanted to see how she did with the gratitude journal. And at the end of a month, she said, you know what, I don't need my check-in. I'd already worked with her and she'd gotten on a good path, but as I say, fell into a tough spot. And this gratitude journal worked really well for her. Now, Emmons' research shows, he looked at a 2-month period of students. One group listed blessings, things they were grateful for. One group listed hassles that happened, and a third listed neutral life events on a weekly basis. Did that for a 2-month period. And people who kept a gratitude list were more likely to have made progress in personal goals, academic, interpersonal, or health-based. So this, by the way, could also help your children if you have those in high school or college and they are feeling overwhelmed. So this program, again, is good for you, for your patients, and for your friends and family, hopefully. Those who kept a weekly gratitude journal exercised more regularly, reported fewer physical symptoms, and felt better about their lives as a whole. They were more optimistic about the upcoming week, those that kept a gratitude journal. So how do we cultivate gratitude? Number 1, keep a gratitude journal if you can. Look, and if you can't write it down, how about you tell your spouse before going to bed? Or how about you write it in your phone? I don't know. But the idea is to express it in some way. And learn some prayers of gratitude. I'm grateful for this day. And you could make a mantra out of it. You can have visual reminders of the things for which you're grateful. Perhaps a picture of your wife or husband or kids or father or friend or dog on your computer or on your phone that reminds you every day what you're grateful for. And creating a list of benefits in your life, thinking about what is really going on that's good, that you are so happy you have in your life. And then you can ask yourself, to what extent do I take these for granted? You look at that list. And talk to yourself in a creative, optimistic, and appreciative manner. This is one of Dr. Emmons' colleagues, Dr. Quick, who also does a lot of work on gratitude. This goes back to our self-talk we talked about in the very beginning. Then reframing a situation by looking at it with a different, more positive attitude, reframing. How can I learn and grow from this? Ask you to take perhaps a growth mindset. Ask you to find some positive aspects of this particular situation. Get yourself to a positivity ratio of about 3 to 1. And those that score high on gratitude, I wanted to share some of these findings with you. Higher positive emotions, life satisfaction, vitality, and optimism for those scoring high on the gratitude scale. Lower depression and stress. Enhances good feelings better than it decreases unpleasant emotions. It actually enhances good feelings. High levels of gratitude. Grateful people do not deny or ignore negative emotions, feelings, or events. They don't ignore them. These things will still happen to us. We will be able to manage them better, be more resilient. And people that score high on gratitude have an increased capacity to be empathic and to take the perspective of others. They're rated as more generous and more helpful by people in their social network, those that have high scores on these gratitude scales I shared with you. So, summing it up, we go back to, let's get out of the expert approach when we're talking to ourselves, and especially when we're talking about lifestyle changes. Don't need to examine, x-ray, plan, explain, repeat, sell, and tell. like we do when we are in the expert approach. Let's be curious, open, appreciative, compassionate, and honest with ourselves. Have self-compassion when we're self-coaching, and also with others, patients, family members, friends, when we're trying to empower them and coach them to adopt healthy lifestyles. These are the tools. I mentioned the book, Mindset. It's a really great book. I had some other books available to you. Dr. Emmons' book, and here's Dr. Barbara Fredrickson's book. It's Love 2.0. There's an app, Happify, which you may be familiar with. And I really recommend this gratitude journal if you're looking for something to change your attitude and your life. It's a journey. Happy to be on this with you. I do hope that you found this presentation useful. Please do fill out your 3 questions and email them back to me and give me some feedback. Let me know what's useful to you. If you like the PowerPoints, if you like the data, if you like the tips and tools, what do you like? And I wish you a fantastic week, and we will see you in a week with the next edition of Paving the Path to Wellness. Thank you.